All right, now let's break down this matchup between two not flyweights. This is going to be the Bantamweight UFC debut for the former flyweight title challenger, Kai Asakura, who will be moving up a weight class to try and take out Cameron Smotherman, the babyface killer. I'm not laughing because of his nickname. I'm laughing at this matchup is a little bit lopsided, but if you look at some of the matchups that they've given Cameron Smotherman, this actually might be on par. I'm not gonna lie. We all know that Kai Asakura came into the UFC in the end of 2024 at the UFC 310 pay-per-view in the main event because Bilal Muhammad and Shavkat Rakhmonov was supposed to be the main event of that pay-per-view, and Kai Asakura and Alexandre Pantoja was the co-main event. But when that fight was canceled, it moved to the main event, and Kai Asakura made his UFC debut, losing to the flyweight champion in a second round submission. And then on top of that, he loses his last fight by the same method in a second round submission to Tim Elliott, of all people. Yeah, so he loses to who's now ranked number 12. And before that, Kai was somewhere in the flyweight rankings. And now that the flyweight division is so stacked, just like this division, the bantamweight is so stacked, he thinks he has a better chance of getting a fresh start in a new division where he has competed in the past before. He fought a lot of these rising fights that are under his belt that he had against Juan Archuleta, one of the best bantamweights in the Bellator Grand Prix era. And then obviously his last couple losses are to the top of the best of the flyweight division in the UFC. On top of that, if you look at the top of the UFC flyweight division, he has his best victories over two men who will be involved in the main event next month that will determine more than likely who will challenge Pantoja and Joshua Van for the next flyweight championship challenger. And this fight, going back to Kai Asakura now getting his bantamweight refreshment, again, this is a great opponent. Like losing to Ricky Simone is one thing, but Surrey City, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying that he's great. But beating Jake Hadley, he had a similar, a couple great, few three fight, win streak in his contender series, debut, and then became the person who gets his highlight reels made for other contender series debuts that came after him. It's just the trend. It's just like Ultimate Fighter. So that's his best win. Also beating Mando Gutierrez and Jan and John Yanis is, 2-1. That's his record. Like if you look at some of the best wins, like their records for Cameron Smotherman, they're like all losing or 500 records. I'm not even joking. And meanwhile, you got a guy who was the who's who in Ryzen, who are now some of the who's who in the UFC. And with that being said, I can't see a way where he is going to come into the UFC and lose three in a row. It might be the same thing that we had touted for Patchy Mix if the UFC didn't cut him and whoever they made his third fight against after he already lost his second and his first, it would have been potentially the similar thing that could happen to Kaya Sakura tomorrow. But there's no way if he loses to a man like Cameron Smotherman, it's I'm not trying to insult Cameron Smotherman, but it is the definition of you are not UFC caliber. To me, if you can't beat Cameron Smotherman, you shouldn't fight in the UFC anymore. And until Cameron Smotherman has a dog fight with somebody with UFC experience and shows me that he has that grit in him, because the last fight he had, I remind you, it was at the UFC Fight Night in Atlanta. A lot of fighters came off that card are fighting in this event tonight or tomorrow, and that fight was just like it was like you can see, like one judge gave it 29-28, but no, it was 30-27. It was a domination, and Ricky Simone being one of the best bantamweights in the world, just not ranked currently right now. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, he just lost a decision in a tough bout to one of the top ranked bantamweights in Hani Barcelos. And it's like he went from that bout, from losing that right before beating Cameron Smotherman. So I think Cameron is a tough fighter when it matters, like sometimes, but not when it's going to matter tomorrow. Fighting all the way across the world where he's from, and he's obviously fighting out of Houston, Texas. No, I don't see it coming. I don't see it happening. I think Kai is going to get his first UFC win by. Hmm, he's definitely a knockout artist more than submission. So I would say third round TKO. And 1-2 in the UFC. And 1-0 in the bantamweight division. So that's my breakdown. I will get the rest of the videos out in a few moments.